Hello, this is Gio, and a few years ago I made this treehouse for my kids. But one thing I did not do was finish up the roof and install shingles on the roof to make sure that water doesn't leak into the little play area right there. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. Okay, and so this is what the roof looks like. It's just made out of some cedar boards supported with some treated 2x4s. It's a really simple construction, but works. It's pretty short. It's probably only about 4 feet high, maybe a little higher at its peak. It's about 4 feet by 5 feet, and I just got one package of asphalt shingles. Some of the things I did not get is roofing felt, which acts as a vapor barrier on most roofs, and flashing, because I'm not really concerned with making this completely watertight like you're concerned with a typical roof. I just want to keep, when it rains, I want the drips not to drip on my kids as they play. I want them a little more sheltered. Right now water can just get through these cracks. So I'm not bothering with the felt, and the flashing is kind of overdone for this kind of simple roof. But I do want the shingles up, and so that's what I'm putting up. And I'm keeping the construction really simple. I have my shingles here. I have a couple of boards to help cut and trim the shingles with just a utility knife blade here. The last thing you typically need is just some roofing nails. But one of the things I'm dealing with is that the boards I use are just less than a ½ inch long, and your shortest roofing nails are typically about 3/4 inches. And so because it's such a low roof, when you put the nails in, I don't want to poking out. The kids could hit their head and cut themselves on the nails. So I had to come up with a different solution, and the solution was just this construction sealant. It's mainly for flashing, but it can also be used for the shingles themselves. And since it doesn't have to be a long life type situation like a normal roof, I'm going to use this as an adhesive. Rather than nailing these in place, I'm going to use the sealant to secure them in place. And they do have this kind of tar strip, which over time will warm up and kind of glue the shingles together. So this should hold these in securely. So when you lay out your shingles, you want to remember a couple of things. First of all, as water hits them and kind of flows down, you don't want them to get inside these cracks and flow. If the water goes in these cracks, you want a shingle right underneath it so it'll just bead down. Now typically they say about 5 inches apart. You want this little lip to be about 5 inches. Now for your first row that will go down here, again, you don't want this lip to not be protected. So we're going to start with a starter shingle, and we're going to do that by just trimming off these little flaps and just leaving the full shingle. And so we'll use that as a starter shingle that goes in the first spot. And I'll use the board and utility knife to do that. This just cuts off quite easily through the whole row. So I snapped the line as a guide, put my little trim pieces, my starter row right here, and I have about a 1/4 inch of lip here just to allow for drip. And then I'm going to take my adhesive and just make a bead probably just about 1 inch back from the edge. Actually probably right at this line, so probably about 1.5 inches back from the edge. Okay, so after you've done your starter row, you want to put essentially your first row of full shingles, but you want to start them at the very edge of the starter row. And if you notice, I have a seam right here. You want to make sure that your first row of shingles, your tab is between, or actually covers that seam, so water won't feed in and get caught in this groove here. So you're going to go all the way over with your first row of shingles, and I'm going to go and adhere it about at this location right here. And so I made a bead underneath about this location. So just to ensure that it's secure to the actual roof, I'm just going to lift up here and just turn this around, apply a bead underneath the lip here. And I'm going to do this with each row. So I snapped a few lines as a guide as I work my way up. Each one's about 5 inches back, and so as you put these on, you want to make sure that these little seams overlap like this, or don't overlap, they kind of every other one, so water won't just follow this crack down. You want it to follow and then just bead on top. So I'll go ahead and install each one, making 2 beads, one at this location and one right here, to secure the shingle down. Okay, so I'm nearly done now. I got them kind of staggered. To save materials, I kind of didn't stagger them as much, but again, this is just for a treehouse. This is more than enough. If you look underneath each one of these tabs, you could see it's already getting stuck down, but you could see that we have plenty of room, plenty of protection. The last row, this top piece, I had to trim up on top, and I'm just using these little, this is slightly a different color. This is the upper portion of the shingle, but just to kind of finish it off, I'm just kind of putting this last piece just like that, and I put the bead on either side of the tar material, so when it sets it'll be very nice. And so it's kind of finished look, but this will be wonderful for the kids to allow them to be a little drier on a rainy day playing in their treehouse. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.